Well, not really.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Mr. Brown, would you please open with the invocation? Sure.
Lord, we are grateful to be here tonight, to have our health, to do the things that we should for the people of this county. Help us to always understand that wisdom comes from you. And we do pray for that wisdom so that we can make the correct decisions that will move this county forward, especially in doing your bidding here upon this earth. Lord, we pray for those people of this county, that their health, that their well-being, and that their welfare will be looked upon by you. Help us to always understand that we should be examples before each and every person here. We ask this in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Can you sign up sheet of comments?
Oh, got it. Thank you, sir. So I'd like to make a motion to make one change to the agenda before we approve, and that is to remove under old business item A1, the General Ops Oak Grove Volunteer Fire Department. Last time we met, I think that's sitting with General Ops right now, and we're just going to move that off of here until that gets elevated back up, just a little bit of cleanup. Any more suggested changes for the agenda? Alrighty, can I get a motion with that change?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Alrighty, we have an agenda. Recognition of the public, we have one individual signed up to speak, Mrs. Tina Tobin.
Yeah, could you sign me up? I
Oh.
didn't know there was a sheet.
Yes. I can, Mr. Baker.
You knew I had to say something.
Okay, we have two people. Ms. Tobin, you're first.
Do I give my address and all that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So Tina Tobin, 462 Gibbs Lane in Gallatin. And I just wanted to speak briefly about the item, the funding for the election office. And I'm really not speaking for or against it exactly, but while we're talking about the budget, there were just some things that I'd like to make sure are addressed. So first, we talked before about complaints about people getting the incorrect ballot on their machine. So we did see that again in November. This time, instead of people saying that they had like missing names, this time they said they just had a whole like missing race. Like for wards, instead of like Ward 3 for their councilman, they would just have at large, no specific ward. So I don't know. Is it a machine problem? Is it programming? Is it a machine operator error? We don't know, but we need to get to the bottom of this. While we're talking about budgeting, I think we definitely need to find out what's going on there. Second, I'd just like to get some clarity on what the office is responsible for and what the vendor's responsible for. There's some functions we expect the vendor to handle, some I would think the office would handle, like our absentee ballots were run through the scanner and the tabulator by the vendor. So that's fine, but I would have expected that to be an office function. So, that would just be something I think I would like to understand, where that falls budget-wise. And third, voter roll cleanup. 2023 is supposed to be the year to do that, non-election year. That's, what the state's telling us, that, that's the priority. And I think every single person that knocked doors knows, there's a lot of names on there that need to come off. People move, move out of county, within the county. But boy, I think every one of you probably has a list of who knows how many names that shouldn't be on there. So, that I would like to see addressed as well. So that's it, really, just those three items. While we're talking about budget, I felt that that's something you should really consider. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Baker.
Kevin Baker, 424 A.B. Wade Road. First thing I'd like to talk about is the increase of the autopsy fee. I noticed that you see that the fee's going up by a couple $100, but you don't talk about what the transportation fee is. If I drive myself, can I get that off of my fee? And can I lock it in for future? I had to have a little levity. I'm concerned that we're going to further, this is regarding the Forward Sumner, and we've talked about this, Mr. Chairman. I've sat for a number of years, almost from the first time we got involved in county business back in 2012, and listened to certain people tell us they were going to do all these things. Route 109 was supposed to not have any more traffic lights on them. The county mayor at the time and Mr. Johnson, who was his sidekick, basically told us we have an agreement with all the entities, the cities, that there will no longer be or never be any more traffic lights. Well, we have a new Kroger on the bypass. We have all these new things adding into the streams of traffic. Secondly, when they pitched the industrial park, we were sitting, and this was again Forward Sumner. We were sitting on almost 400,000 square feet of vacant industrial space, and he was leading the charge to pitch an industrial park. I don't trust that entity. I've looked through all of his past annual reports, and I tried to add that up with what I've observed. I can't honestly see tangible results where he's actually said he did this and we have tangible results to show it. Perfect case, Beretta. And some of you've heard this story before. We were sitting in an industrial development board meeting. The head of the industrial development board meeting, they were just talking about Beretta coming online. Well, they don't pay what they said they were going to pay. They haven't hired the number of people they said they were going to hire, but it looks good for our image. I'm tired of image. I think the citizens of Sumner County are tired of image. I'm not arguing that we don't need to do some training. We've got guidance counselors in the schools. We've got all these other entities. You know where I stand, and we agree to disagree on this. I don't think it's a wise thing to get further involved with this entity that has not delivered over the years. That's my 2 cents. And can we get a little reduction on that autopsy report? Merrill and I may be needing it sooner than later.
Well, I'll try to get us out of here relatively quickly today, so you can have a little bit of extra lifetime. So, thank you, Mr. Baker. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, go
I
ahead.
just noticed that Katie Brown, the address isn't included. It's 107 Timberline Drive, so we need to add Timberline Drive. But anyway, other than that,
So can I get the motion to approve that with
Yes,
that
good
amendment?
catch, Jerry.
So moved.
Second.
Timberline Drive?
Timberline, yes.
How do you spell that?
Timberline
Okay, I thought that's what.
Drive.
Okay.
So we have the motion, Mr. Mansfield?
I had the motion.
Oh, you had the
Yeah,
motion, you had the second. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty, thank you. Report of the budget chairman. I have no report today other than to say that Mr. Mansfield has set record time during the legislative, so I will attempt, I think we will attempt to be very efficient today. Other than that, no report. Mr. Mayor.
All right. On Christmas Eve, County Administration Building, a sprinkler pipe froze and burst, causing significant water issues on all 4 floors. The affected areas were the finance, voter registration, storage, registers, deeds, and the county clerk's office. Fire department was quick to respond. We got pictures of everything. Maintenance team, along with myself, worked through the day and evening moving equipment, trying to get things out of the water's way, save as much as we could. And working with Serpro, we were able to get, for the county admin building, we were able to get Serpro out of Wilson County to come in, and they've done a good job. Also that evening, juvenile court experienced the same thing. Fortunately, they were able to contain that to the lobby area. That's a leased building, so we had no property damage. No equipment or anything like that was damaged, and we were able to get that back in working order pretty quickly. Let's see, then move on to Christmas Day. Millersville Library, pipe froze and burst over a ladies' restroom, causing significant flooding throughout the premises. Actually, somebody driving by, you know, when a sprinkler system goes, it alerts the fire department. But when a pipe bursts, it doesn't. So somebody was just happened to be driving by and seeing water pour out the front door. And that's how we were notified of that. So library workers, police and fire were there on site quickly, along with the maintenance team. We were out there working through the day and evening, trying to move equipment. Same thing, trying to save what we could. We were able to get ServPro of Hendersonville, or of Sumner County, out there. They're located in Hendersonville, but able to get them out to Millersville to start the water mitigation. And then the Gallatin Library got back to work on 12/28, and sprinkler broke at Gallatin Library. Fortunately, police and fire department were quick to respond, and all we lost were a few books. No major property damage. They were able to get back online pretty quickly. Where we are with expenses, all of this was under an emergency PO, and David can expand on that. My role was just to take action and try to save as much as I could, and give you an idea of where we are right now with the dollars. County admin building, I haven't gotten a number back from ServPro of where we are, but with everything else, register of deeds, county clerk, construction, we're about $100,900 on the county admin building, and that's without ServPro. Millersville Library, everything that we've got there, the books, building, and ServPro mitigation, we're at 54, which is rounded up to 54,000. Well, I'm sorry, once we add the books into it, we're at 61,000. So those aren't finished yet. We still haven't got ServPro completely out. Our big goal right now is to save the flooring. The flooring's new. We had just put it down like the week 2 before. So that's our goal, is to save the flooring. The Register of Deeds office, the problem that we've got there is those big stands that the books are in, they were just too cumbersome to try to move. So they made the decision to just floor around them. Well, that's good until we have water and there's carpet under there. So we now have to remove those and get that carpet up, and hopefully we don't have issues with the flooring up there. We'll be meeting with Joey's Flooring this week. They're giving it more time to dry, and we'll meet with them this week to assess the damage and see if we need to replace any of the floors. So that's where we are right now. If anybody's got any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Mr. Chairman, item B was the purchase orders, but there's been some changes, so there's actually a packet passed out that contains all the current purchase orders that was issued, and I actually sent an email to Darrell Rogers because he had a question, and I asked his permission to put it in the packet. Tonight it explains why we issued them and what the reasoning and what's required for emergency purchases on the front of the packet.
Okay, I don't know that I got that packet.
Should have been passed around to everybody.
Did you put it in my overall packet? Oh, okay. All right.
But when you look at that, you're required to report the emergency purchases to the county commission. So I would like to ask the committee you could send Mr. Isabel's letter and this packet right here to the county commission as a report for the emergency purchases.
I'll entertain a motion to do that. Second. Or do you have a question?
I have a question. The insurance was $25,000, I think, per event.
Yeah, for each location, it'd be 25,000.
And we don't have to pay anything over that? Or is it?
No, that's the deductible, yes. We'll pay the first 25,000.
And then we're done.
And they cover their
That's
own,
great.
yeah. And we filed claims. We do have claims going with the Millersville Library and the county administration building,
But not with
but not with the others.
I guess I've got a question. So is this inclusive of that $75,000?
No, this is just the raw cost for your report.
Yeah.
We've not deducted
Okay, got
25,000
it.
yet.
So this is these are being ticked up. I know the expenses aren't done yet, and then we're gonna
So at the end of the day, we're gonna pay 25,000 for the county admin building.
25 for each.
25 for.
So that's what it's gonna be. And
Yeah.
all right, got it. That was my
And-
understanding
and
too. But
there might be a little gray area. We're still working through it on
I mean, is
books
that
and all
yeah?
that.
Like that? Would that cover?
Well, that's what we're working on with this management.
Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And I'm assuming it was all T&M, time and materials?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So we're back to your note.
The actual memorandum from the mayor, and then actually the email and the attached POs. Because the email explains why we actually purchased, did the emergency POs for water abatement, freezing, prevention. And
Now, is there under emergency use? We don't actually need to take a vote on that. Are we going to need to take a vote on?
No, it just
on any
says-
of the expenditure. I don't think we do.
Not at this point. Under the statute, if you did an emergency purchase, it has to be reported to two groups.
Got it.
First, the county mayor, and he's the one requested the emergency purchase.
Right.
And then number two, it has to be reported to the county commission at the next meeting, is what it says.
Okay, got it.
And we'll report the POs, and then we get the final cost, when
Yep,
we report the
got it.
finals.
So you have a motion, second, and this is just to pass this on to the commission.
For
No vote
report.
taken.
I just had
Go
a
ahead.
question based on general ops. On last Monday, they were asking questions about bidding something out versus where's the mitigation, stopping the damage of SERPRO versus getting to the rebuild phase. So I didn't know, it was an interesting discussion about, does that apply here, is that necessary here, or?
Well, we asked Mr. Hyde about his previous experience, and his opinion was that the mayor was fully within his rights to go ahead and do that. And
Sure, I'm not questioning that, but
yeah,
I'm just asking.
because I went to look at it the next day. The mayor was out of town or gone somewhere, but I looked and the drywall had already been taken care of, and so they were getting ready to tape it. And so I was going to report to the general ops, and because of the insurance issue, and I knew that it was we'd already passed the deductible. I didn't know that it was relevant to talk about it. Now, I've talked to other general ops members, and we probably need to discuss, what's an emergency, what isn't. For instance, getting Surf Pro there was the emergency. Getting the drywall work done, I think that's something that we could discuss, and I didn't feel that as general ops, the mayor had sent me an email, said, do you want me to stop everything? And they were in the middle of it, and I said, no, go ahead and keep moving, and maybe I was in error.
Let me ask a
We
question.
evaluate. I'm sorry.
Let me ask something on that vein here. I know we've got a motion on the table, so I want to address that, but I mean, there's an argument here that because I get where you're going, what's an emergency, what isn't, but if it's going to be, if our insurance policy is covering everything, I would think we would want to keep as much of that classified under emergency as possible and not move to
Spend
bid.
money
Yeah,
that
right, I
would-
mean,
The insurance claim wouldn't be affected because this is an emergency or not, because it's still part of the same thing.
right, it's the same event.
We evaluate them in finance, and we look at a couple of things to determine that.
Okay.
And if it's got risk to the public, an employee, further damage to property, or it'll disturb operations, then we actually will give an emergency PO. This one, when it flooded, first you had to get the water out.
Right.
And then what it did, it flattened out all the insulation inside the walls, so we had to open the walls and fix the insulation. Well, when you do that, you don't want to leave them open if the general public, plus
Right.
children might climb in or whatever
Right.
else is going on. And then the flooring, we started pulling the damaged sections and the water sections because it's brand new and we didn't want further damage. And another reason we did it, for instance, like the mayor mentioned, the register of
Right.
deeds has water around the books causing further damage, and the actual books are damaged and it's closed off. So if you meet those requirements, if it's caused by unforeseen, you need immediate relief, and you can prove one of those three things, there's a danger to the public, an employee, unnecessary disturbance to operations, or, what was the other one? I mean, property damage, then we will issue emergency PO.
Yeah.
So we do evaluate all those, and including these last on the fixing the drywall. They were considered emergency for two reasons. One, it needed to be re-winterized, and number two, we were concerned about the amount of water in the walls and causing possible
Black mold.
black mold and mildew.
Got it.
That's why we open them, and then once you open them, you have to close them.
Mr. Mansfield?
I just wanted noted for the record, I was never out of town.
Oh,
Okay.
So he reached out to me, I was in a meeting,
Okay,
and he asked if I was available. No, I wasn't available at the time because I was in a meeting.
okay.
So
Sorry, I
was in
assumed.
town.
Okay.
But we do evaluate all the emergency POs, and when there's an emergency PO, they come to me to make sure that I agree that it's actually an emergency.
Mr. Mansfield?
Yeah, I was just asking a question for clarification because it came up in a lengthy discussion a little bit
Yeah.
in general ops. Just what's the process between like rebuilding something, and I think it's a good explanation, but just to know,
Yeah.
so there's seems to be a fuzzy area that people had a lot of questions about, so I just wanted to clarify that since it was brought up in general ops as we're passing this forward, so nobody has any questions about how that process works. Makes sense?
Yep,
So, thank you for
100%.
explaining.
Yeah, if
So
there's any further-
So there's still motion on the table to pass this forward
Forward to the
commission. No action. Can I get, is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All righty. Mr. Mayor, I think that covers both A and B.
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
No, sir.
All righty. Mr. Lawing?
The first one's a discussion for, and I think specifically for library and highway, or if there's any other committees that items need to pass through before they come to budget committee, which items?
Yeah, I'd like to entertain a motion here for discussion. I think this is an important one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
For discussion. Any opposed? All righty. So this has come from, I guess a couple budget committees now as we're moving into here. I think this commission is doing a good job, this is my opinion, I'm 4 months in now, of using the committee process. I know that previously General Ops, I think, would go 6 months without meeting. And so we're trying to do things the appropriate way, give it the proper due diligence here. However, I do also understand that there's been a little bit of confusion from department heads about what qualifies as being something that needs to be put through a subcommittee versus what can just go directly to budget. And so I think the purpose of this is to come up with a simple, and if we don't get to it today, that's okay, but the idea here is that we come up with a simple set of rules that the department heads can understand, that we can say, hey, if this criteria, you need to put that to your subcommittee, but if it's this criteria, you don't. And I'm going to make a proposal here that I think's simple, but I'm sure we can kick around some others. All new appropriations have to go through committee, whether those are appropriations here or they come from federal funds like ARPA or state funds or whatever. Any new appropriation has to go through subcommittee. Any appropriation or transfer whatsoever that is relevant to a salary change, those also need to go through subcommittee. Transfers, pure inter-transfers, interbudgetary transfer that are net zero to that director's budget can go directly here. That would be what I would recommend. There may be, particularly that last one, I think there might be some discussion on it, so I'll shut up and let people kick that around.
What I'm concerned about is, you just pointed out three things, what are we not thinking about?
I don't know.
And I guess that's what to kick around. I mean, you have any thoughts on that?
If it was me, I would take these as a recommendation this month and then give everybody a month to think about it and then come back.
See what breaks.
During the month, you'll think about 15 things during the month as you run into them. Like general ops, what do you want going through there? Even more detailed, and we can keep these on the minutes and then next month you can add to them.
I mean, I guess the idea here, I think that's the right approach, right? Like start here and see how it works, and maybe there's a threshold. I mean, at least in my mind, we want to give the department heads room to operate, but also, balance that with appropriate oversight. I'm interested, go ahead.
Well, I mean, budget's the last meeting before the full commission. So I guess what's the harm of going through a committee for everything? I'm just playing devil's advocate a little bit. If it's got to come the week before it goes to general ops or health and emergency services or highway or education, then it comes to budget as a kind of a fail stop. I guess, why does it make a difference? Why does it have to come straight to budget? Why wouldn't it go through committees? Because it's not a time issue, because we meet after all the committees. So I guess
I'm just trying to do. And I'm asking both of the departments, because by the time it gets here, I don't sit on those other committees. I'm agnostic to that, but I guess the question is to Mr. Klein or Mr. Brown or others who chair these others, like, do you really want to see $800 transfers for, going from
toner cartridge.
Yeah, cartridge to. That's the question, right?
Yeah.
What do y'all want to do?
There's a logistical issue too. They're not supposed to exceed any of their line items, and when we make payments upstairs, they can transfer within finance right now, and then it goes to the committee for non-salary. Right now, when we notice they're gonna go over, we make them go ahead and alleviate these small transfers. And then if they need a PO for something, if they don't have the line item, then it'll actually stop their operation. We won't give them a PO.
So you're saying it's more helpful probably not to go through the committee process for those interbudgetary transfers just because of that fail-safe?
Right, and kind of follow the older process. As long as we don't think there's an issue, the committee will have an issue. Sometimes that's hard to tell, but I generally want to approve them if we think they'll have an issue with the committee. Sometimes that does happen, but it keeps their operations going. Now, as the chairman said, salary's one that has to go to this committee period anyway. And then the other, if they're new appropriations, they need to go to all the committees because they got to go all the way to the commission.
Mr. Becker?
I was gonna suggest, if we could sort of get in front of us what the current rules are and what you suggested, and then we can talk about it next month.
The
We
current,
can come up with
the current rule is if it's a salary, it comes to this committee.
Well,
If-
I'd like to see something written down.
Sure.
So just
I agree.
something simple. This is what it is, this is what we're suggesting, and we can talk about it and move on.
I agree. And
Get the clarity.
I will work with you to get those. I'm just going to put in writing what I just said, and then that'll issue that guidance to the department heads, because at least some guidance is better than nothing.
Yep.
And hopefully that'll help, and then we'll adjust it from there.
So, am I understanding that budget committee will be the hub of the wheel? And if budget committee decides it should go to general ops or
Right.
to school,
Right.
we'll make the decision here.
That's right. If it, a lot of things will flow up here, and then we'll kick it back. For the
Because
smaller
it starts
things.
with money,
Right.
and then we'll want to see in this committee whether it's appropriate to,
Right.
for emergency services or anything else, so we'll
Right.
kick it and whatever.
But-
Okay.
But hopefully, we get to the point where we're not having to kick anything back, because that just delays it.
Well,
Right,
yeah,
right.
we're going to get through a lot of this to the next budget, right?
There's a documented process, we follow the
Yeah.
process, then we're good to go.
Right, yeah.
Mr. Mayor? and you.
Just so I understand it, since I'll be working with the department heads, everything starts with budget, and then y'all dole it out?
If
We haven't
it,
agreed upon it, I'm sorry, can we just move on?
well,
I
let's,
mean, what are we doing?
well, the
Seriously.
idea is to issue this guidance.
And then we agree
vote
on
on
it next
this.
month. Are we gonna vote on it
We're
tonight?
gonna vote
I'll
on,
be
we're gonna
happy
vote
to
on
save
those,
it to next
right, we're
month.
gonna vote on
That's fine.
issuing these three things, right? Just
Tonight?
this, because that's what
No,
you
that's not
did.
what I was suggesting, okay.
That's
So,
what I
yeah, so
thought
if
you
we're
were
voting on this
suggesting.
tonight, then okay,
And just those three items.
okay. That's not what I was
That's not what
suggesting.
you wanted to do.
Yeah, correct.
I was understanding what Jerry and David were, I was tracking. what
Y'all are
they-
tracking it, all right, so you would rather me write this up, put that there, and we vote on it next month?
I
I'm
think
fine
Jerry
with
said
that.
leave as is right now.
I'm fine with
Fix
that.
it, Look at next month.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Fair enough.
could I weigh into,
Yep.
and something to point out, David's on track at some point to retire in the not too distant future. So the way he thinks of something subjectively may be different for
Well,
the next finance director, unless we can convince him to stay. which I'm all.
Well, it's still 2.5 years, so.
Yeah, I understand that, but I mean, this
I'm not-
will still be in play.
I'm worried about between here and then.
Right, and I understand, but I mean, it's just a difference in how people think is what might be a problem with the committee versus what somebody else might think.
And honestly, sometimes things get slid by me if somebody, we've had one.
We'll write them up. I'll defer this. We'll write them up, bring it back to vote next time.
So moved.
Well, we don't need, we're deferring it.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay,
Item number 2, I'll start trying to speed up here, is the autopsies. They've went from, you can see the sheet, from 2,100 plus 200 transportation to 2,300 plus transportation is my understanding. To give you an idea of the size, in 22 fiscal year, we spent $135,850. In 2021, we spent $163,925. So we're thinking this is probably an increase somewhere between $14,000 and $17,000 a year.
How much?
Between 14 and 17 a year is what we're kind of guessing. Could go either direction. Item number C is the revenue analysis. The total, if we projected your revenues today for the current year, we think we picked up about, we're above where we estimated, almost 2%, which is a little over $4 million. If you look up, I'm sorry, I'll slow down. It's the passed out sheet.
Yeah, this one here.
I'm trying to speed up for
Okay,
everybody.
yeah, no, that's great.
So we don't need a vote on the autopsy?
No, sir, it's just for your information. They sent it to me, so I passed on the information. The next one on these, anything in the pinkish color, because I didn't make them read because they were hard to read last month, is something we're below, estimating below the 100, something in green is above. If it's exactly 100%, it's white. By and large, you have a lot more greens than red, and your overall numbers are positive. We are still concerned about inflation and recession, but right now we're tracking well. Item D and E is actually the items each month. Number 1 is just the cash flow as requested by the state for the highway department. It's doing well at this point compared to projections. And then the second was just to inform the commission that on the 23rd, that the financial statements will be there, and those 2 items do need to be sent to commission just for docketing purposes. And that's the end of my report.
thank you, sir. Okay, moving on to old business here. We've removed the general ops, the Oak Grove. So going on into the highway committee. So this is page 3032. This was a funding request. We brought it up last month, and we went back to highway with this. And I believe that highway voted unanimously to pass that here. So I'd like to entertain
Motion approved.
Second.
any discussion.
Can they have one more item? If you approve this, can you also remove the election machines from ARPA because they're no longer needed? That would be a cleanup when you do this.
I'll make that motion.
That way it'll give this, the funding.
Well, so there would be an amendment to the motion to,
I'm
I-
sorry. can you repeat?
There's $1.5 million worth of ARPA funds appropriated for election machines. They were bought through HAVA and/or state funds. So the,
why don't we do that separately?
Okay.
I think we should do that separately, because it's, I know it's ARPA, but we're trying to keep everything separate.
okay. Well, I was
Let's
just
do that
wanting
separately.
to do it because
I agree with
have
you.
the 1.5 to get back on here.
I mean, I totally agree with you, but I want to keep things severed.
You got a motion and a second.
Motion and a second, any discussion on this, on highway? All right,
I'm sorry. I thought we had already, in previous meetings, removed it from the election.
It's not been,
not-
the appropriation's never been removed.
I know it's not. I thought it was-
That's what I'll put it on the
I know we
agenda.
talked about it.
I don't
I'll put it on
think-
the agenda next month to remove it.
Okay, thanks.
let's do that.
All right.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, any further discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Are we talking about the tractors here?
We are talking about some is tractors, most of
Yes,
it's mixed.
It's tractors.
Most of this is mixed.
Well, there's 3 tractors that are at or above 8,000 hours, and they're wanting to replace them. It's what, 8,000 hours. Why was that number picked?
We do have the,
Yeah,
go ahead. We can't hear you, sir.
Yeah.
We were talking, hi, I'm Cody Ellis, road superintendent, 1051 North, 109. We talked about the tractors in the highway committee meeting. I will forego that and wait till a later date and try to work that in budgetary, maybe next year or something. The main thing I'm really for is money for asphalt.
well, I agree with you
First
on
and
that,
foremost.
yeah.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
We do have some tractors, Mr. Brown, that's costing us they're getting into where you're not having $2,000 and $3,000 repairs. They're transmissions and reading engines. So that's some things that I'm kind of going with right now. But our greatest need for the county and for the highway department is asphalt. And the money that y'all approved, that once it goes to the highway commission, they approve it. I want it to go to this one item. I want it to go to asphalt.
Yeah.
So we can do more repairs and get the roads up to snuff. So I just wanted to clarify.
I'll agree with you on that. I just wondered why 8,000 hours. I mean, you divide that out and it comes up to 33 in the third day.
8,000 hours on bush hogs.
Yeah.
They're treated pretty rough.
Oh, yeah.
And
I've
so
seen drag down some
8,000
hills.
hours on a bush hog is like 16,000 on a road grader. So it's a little different, but just wanted, sorry to just kind of intervene there, but really what I'm after is asphalt. So, thank you.
Toby, how many mowing tractors do we own total?
We keep, we have 12, but we're running 10 and rotating 2 in and out of the shop, 2 to 3 times.
Okay.
And we've already pushed off over 1,600 miles since I've been in office, so they're used every day. And we
Since
September 1st.
September 1st, okay.
What would,
Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
what would be the harm in, foregoing buying new
Well, that-
equipment and just fixing what we've got to see?
I'm about to ask about a motion here. Thank you, Mr. Ellis. So Mr. Brown or Mr. Smith, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I think we're going in the same place here. Are you asking for an amendment to this motion to remove the 380-36 and just vote on the asphalt?
Yeah, let's just, yeah.
So, all right, so we have a motion on the table to amend.
Are you making the motion?
No, he's making the motion.
I'll make a motion.
Is there a second on that?
If it needs repairs, I mean, I don't know that we remove it.
Well, this says not for repairs. This is for
I
new
understand
tractors.
that. I'm just saying-
Make the second.
But
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
I'm
Any-
just, is the equipment to the point though, I mean, what he needs immediate?
we heard him speak to it, and so we have a motion and a second to amend this and only vote on the 1.25 for asphalt. Any other discussion or question on that? Mr.
I guess
Mansfield?
my question is kind of like the same thing as the trucks have been up in the, you got 100,000 miles on the truck, well, who cares? Put 300,000 miles on it. The transmission's $5,000, it's cheaper than a $64,000 truck. I mean, so it's like, I just don't know the cost of this equipment versus repairing it, like, is the tractor $150,000? Like, how many were there?
I think it's 3.
3 of them, so.
Three of them.
I mean, roughly
115.
So,
127.
Is that what it was?
how long does the transmission last? If it's good, I mean, I'm just looking at the cost there, versus like it's still cheaper to fix than replace and buy something new. I'm probably gonna vote for this.
Okay.
Just for right now, but I'm just trying to talk through it because I haven't heard a lot.
I get it. Mr. Rogers?
If I'm not out of order, Mr. Chairman, I would encourage the committee buying new equipment. Living on a farm and a hobby farm myself, once they get to a certain point, you're repairing and you're replacing, and the metal gets worn and pitted. Sooner or later, you're gonna have to buy a new one. And I know this sounds crazy, but I would rather use ARPA money than I had taxpayers' money in Sumner County next year's budget. So if we're gonna do it, we're gonna be a back against the wall anyway. I would encourage Mr. Chairman to look at using the ARPA funds. I get it, the mentality of it's one taxpayer's money versus another, I get it. But I would rather take money that's designed for an infrastructure and use that money rather than using citizens and taxpayers' money in Sumner County.
Mr. Brown?
Mr. Lowen, how much do we have left in ARPA?
If we spent everything that's been discussed, it'd be minus off the election machines and add on all the highway we discussed, you would have $854,584 left. If you've spent the 380 tonight and all the COVID-19 supplements projected to their end.
Does that include, but that doesn't include the 1 point, shouldn't we add back in there the, money for the election machines?
That is taking those off.
That's already taken that off.
And that's considering if you built the $3.5 million building, the $3.4 million
Okay.
building, and finish these COVID-19 supplements and the hollows, and these are just things that's else on the budget or.
You're just talking about
Go ahead.
the health department and brand new EMS and Shackle, you're counting those and those.
Until
So-
everything's killed.
So backing those out, we're probably closer to $8 million if you back those two.
Seven or
projects.
eight, $7, $8 million. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's
we've
just
already
true.
removed those. I'm just going by what we've removed from our agendas and cleared those out for now. But that's, so realistic, we're looking at about $7 million of ARPA funds left and draining that by, if we approved, let's say, both of these 1.5 something million dollars,
That's net of those, yeah.
that'd be 5.5 million after that?
No, that's already been taken out of the night.
Oh, you're.
He's already out of that.
I've already taken it out the night before I got here.
Yeah.
so I can
This,
tell
when you say
right.
$7 million, it includes this is
Right.
That's not including in that, what's left.
The 1.125 and the 380 was, I'm sorry, 125, but then the 380 was already removed. 1125.
And because of the distributions, some of that is restricted.
That's right. Some of it would be.
Yeah.
Because some of it, I mean, so that's not all into the 10 million revenue replacement. Some of that would have to be, like the EMS, that didn't count against the 10 million. You're tracking the difference, and I'm saying that right.
Now,
Mr. Long.
one point of clarification, this may be one for Todd. Is the request for asphalt 1,125 or 1,250? Because on the email, they're talking about 10 miles at 1,250, but then the request here has 1,125. What was the request, Toby? Was it 1,125,000 or 1,250,000?
Yeah, it looks like a typo. I think this looks like a typo to me.
It should be 1,250.
It should be 1,250, because you've seen the 125 in the expenditure, the revenue increase fund balance on the left.
Right.
I think it's, yeah, that's all that was.
Should be 125.
It's 125 on both columns.
We'll get that
Yeah.
tomorrow.
Okay, go ahead.
May I ask Mr. Long for every month bring us just a, and maybe it's in here somewhere, but an ARPA specific,
Like this?
yeah, exactly. Is that in this package?
No.
Okay.
Because right now, there's so
every
many
month
things
just bring that.
fluctuating. It's-
That'd be awesome. That'd be great.
I can send it, but right now, there's so many things fluctuating.
Just, if you would bring, because we, at least it's something to look off of, because we see it, you and I look at that thing all the time, but not everybody's seeing it.
Then it can bring back the discussions of the buildings and stuff, see what you want to do with
Yeah.
all these things. We'll put that on the agenda next month.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to sever the 380 from the 1.25. Any further discussion?
That's
Okay.
the amendment.
That's the amendment. It's the amendment, and then we go back to the main, if the amendment passes. Have I got that right? I think I'm learning.
I mean, if we voted this right now, we can always come back.
We can always,
and
come-
bring ARPA
right, we
back.
can always bring it back, so. All right, all in favor of the amendment? Aye. Any opposed?
No.
All right, motion carries. Okay, now we're on the amended main, which is just the 1.25. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries unanimously.
I'll
Okay.
make a motion for the remaining 350, for the 3 tractors then.
All right, motion on the table for the remaining 380. Discussion? I mean, we can move this back. We can. I have one question to, I always ask this question. I would like to, I mean, I've been suspending the rules anyway. Mr. Ellis, anything gonna break in 1 month if we don't do this for the tractors?
I mean, it's our, I mean, I'm not, this sounds smart, it's our, but.
Okay,
the
I
thing
mean, I
is-
ask, and you give me the straight answer.
You know, but I mean, here's the thing, is that, guys, if you can't do 3, do 2. If you can't do 2, do 1. I would be happy with anything that you would offer at this point.
I guess I've got this question for you. Would you rather have $380,000 for 3 tractors, or would you rather have $380,000 more mix?
Well,
I mean, I'm just hypothetically asking here, like, what do we really need?
I'll just say, I really, the cost is gonna be pretty great on the tractors going forward. I mean, there's gonna be some big ticket items that aren't budgeted today. gonna be pretty costly.
So you're saying you'd rather have the 3 tractors than more mix?
I feel like what y'all just voted, if I got that would help me get to July 1st.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Just curious, what's the lead time on tractors? We get trucks, takes almost a year to get a truck.
I've talked to Kip about it, and a little over a month ago, it was a couple months, is what he said. He felt pretty good, because he had some in stock that he could get his hands on.
Just curious for perspective.
Do you have your own in-house mechanics, or do you send these
Yes,
out?
sir.
You do?
And of course, when you have a new tractor, you've got warranty with it, and that really saves money to where they're coming out and fixing it versus your own people on big ticket items. So it's a cost savings to have a new piece of equipment. And it definitely helps with productivity.
Mr. Brown?
Are you mowing anything right now?
Mr. Brown, we just stopped mowing. Now we're trimming the trees. And we're, basically what we're doing is everything that's on our spring and paving limits, we're trimming trees back and we're using them for that.
Okay. So, we're basically looking at March is when the mowing will really start up again. I mean, I know you're bush hogging the trees back and roadways,
But
and right of ways.
I'd like to be ready for March.
Yeah, I understand.
And so with what Mayor was talking about, it don't take long and all of a sudden you're past March and you're still waiting, but.
All right. Any other questions? If I vote for this, I hope that we don't go back for $380,000 more in mix.
Thank you.
Do you have a question, David?
And go ahead, David.
Well, he said he's got 12 total tractors and 2 are always in the shop. And so it sounds like he needs 12 new tractors. If they're
It
constant.
depends on how much is being rotated. I mean, it could be the same 4 going in and out there.
I would love to see a list of equipment and the ages of these things, because before we vote on 3 tractors.
Go ahead.
The 3 are definitely the oldest, and what has happened in the past, they buy 3 at a time, every time and do a rotation on them.
Okay,
The
well,
other
that's good.
tractors we have are in good shape. They are. So,
Are you gonna trade these 3 in?
we'll probably sell them. We definitely, we'll get some money back out of it, and that will definitely help.
Any other
So
questions?
it's not like a total deficiency of 380. They've got work that we will get back.
Any other?
Are you considering these unanimous votes as the foregoing the second reading?
That is a good question. So I'll take us, just so we're clear with it, once we're done with this, I'll take another vote on the previous one with that explicitly in there so we can bypass that second reading for the first one. For this one, no matter how it goes, I think we probably don't want to do that because I doubt it'll be unanimous anyway, but any other discussion on this one for the 380, for the tractors? All right. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
No.
Motion fails. Okay.
What was the vote?
That was for the 380 for the,
What was the total tally?
it was 3, 4, and 4 against.
Who said no? You, did you?
Abstain.
1 abstention.
Okay.
So, sorry, I didn't.
3-3 to 1?
3-3 to 1. 3-3 and 1. All righty.
So you're going the second reading on the first?
So yeah, I'm gonna take this again and just, I guess I'll just make or entertain a motion for the 1.25, since it passed unanimously, to go ahead and waive the second reading per our rules.
So moved.
All right, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes, we're good. All righty. I haven't seen anything on the, moving back to A3 on the library board transfers. I think that's,
They don't meet.
they don't meet yet, so I think we're just gonna defer this without, oh,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, So this one, next on the uncollected material receivable. So we got an offer from the city of Portland. It was materially less than what was requested, but there was also a year-over-year uptick. Mr. Mayor, well, I'd like to entertain a motion for discussion here.
So moved.
Second.
All righty. Mr. Mayor, I know we talked about this briefly, and I apologize. I meant to get with you a week or so back on this one since we've spoken last. I think the issue here is when we looked at the year-over-year change for what was requested from the tax assessor's office to the city of Portland, there was a pretty significant uptick. And this is just me. For me to be comfortable going, basically returning this settlement offer to the city of Portland, I'd want to just have good justification. I'm just thinking of putting myself on the other side of this argument, to have justification as to why that increase was what it was. And I don't know if you want to have this conversation now or if we want to defer this. Could we defer it? Would we be able to do that?
Well, we can't hold checks. We have 3 days to
Okay.
deposit, so we've already returned the check to the city with the understanding it's an offer for settlement. So there's no rush.
So there's no rush here. So it's up to you if you.
I'll be happy to do the presentation again. It had all the explanation with it and the letter that was sent to the cities explaining it prior to their budget time. If you want to defer it, I'll talk then. Otherwise, I'll be happy to talk now. I just don't have any notes on it.
Move to defer.
No. Oh,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Oh, go ahead.
So they're offering 60,723,
Yep.
and what's the total?
118, 250, 117.
Oh, so it's good about combination.
57, 527, 62 less than that.
Okay, thanks.
Go ahead.
We've already voted on this, so
Yeah, no, I remember that we voted to kick it back.
First of all, has any other of the municipalities offered anything?
Not at this
No.
point.
Okay. And my comment is that the mayor did speak with me about this, and I knew this was coming, but because it's a city-county issue, I kind of have to stay out of it. But I'm kind of like you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to see that presentation again because I can understand why you would question a 100% increase. I mean, anybody on this commission would question a 100% increase in anything.
106%.
Year over 106%.
106%.
So I think their questioning is valid, but I do think it's worth noting that they are the only municipality
Well, and that's why
that
I think.
offered anything.
That's why I think this is important, because whatever we do here sets the precedent for everybody else. So, and if it's justified, I'm not saying that it's
Yeah,
not
no,
justified.
I understand. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, it's,
I just want to be right.
we, of course, half a loaf is better than none sometimes. So,
Well,
What was the,
go ahead. Mr.
what was
Becker.
the 100% or 106%? The year over year, what was the comparison?
This was, we had some discussion on this last time. Yeah.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. We've already voted on this to defer it.
Any
We're out of
other-
order. Let's go.
All in favor to defer? Aye.
We've already done it. Yeah, we've already voted.
done that.
Let's do it.
Item
All right.
C still waiting bids.
So, C1 and both, actually C1 is still waiting bid, and I don't think there's any action we need to take here. All right, the next item here, I was gonna entertain a motion to defer.
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to make one note on this before we vote on it. I'd like to get in queue myself on this. I do think it's right to defer, and the reason that we need to defer here is that we just now got the contract. And so I know not everybody here's had an opportunity to read the contract, the amended contract. So I think it's right to defer this so that we can all take a look at it. I would like to make a motion, though. I'd like to make a motion to amend that contract here, just so we can put that out here for everybody. And Second only to the Bridal House is, in terms of number of hours I've spent on the phone with people, is this thing. And the question, as Mr. Baker spoke to earlier today, is I think one of accountability. And the last time we were here, I spoke in favor of this, and I think I can still be in favor of it. But what I'd like to see is, instead of I think the idea is a 4-year program with the bulk of this money going toward internships. And what I might like to put on the amended contract, and I guess this is a directive to you, Mr. Sittler, if we can vote on this, would be to have a period of performance, 4 years, with a year-over-year review to be voted to be reviewed by this committee. So what you would basically do is we would prorate that into four different even sections, and it would be contingent on the Forward Sumner organization to prove that it was working. So the idea here, we should have metrics after a year. The idea would be, hey, what was presented in the presentation was, over the course of 4 years, we're going to place, I think Mr. Johnson said they were going to conduct outreach to 600 local residents at various stages of their training, and they're going to place 600 of them, and 300 of them would have been retained. So what I think we ought to do is, instead of giving a pot of money over 4 years, say, how many people have you outreached to? How many of those have been placed, and how many of those have been retained? So are we actually getting the bang for the buck out of this? So what I'd like to do is make a motion to amend this, amend the contract itself to become a 4-year, 4 by 1 year period of performance.
Get a motion second on the floor to defer.
For deferment.
Well, can you not amend that to?
Then
I think we can amend that. Yeah, I can amend. I'd like to amend that motion.
Only caution I have is after December 31st, 2024. If you sign the contract with them, you commit on 24. So if he doesn't perform and you end at 24, then you can't reallocate those funds.
Well, that gives us
That
a
just
year.
disappears.
That gives us a year. We can.
Right.
We give us.
But I just want to make sure you understand that it will cause that particular issue.
Well, we got it. I mean, so we got a year still.
So, but if he don't perform, it'll forfeit though with the
Yeah,
statistical.
that's fine.
We won't get the money back if he.
Well, we'd get it back after year 1, though.
After year 1, but
After
not
year
not
1.
after December.
We'd have. It's basically prove yourself after year 1,
We'd have to reallocate the money by December 31st, 2024.
which we'd have plenty of time to do.
Making sure everybody's aware.
Does everybody understand the amendment?
2024.
2024, by then you would have to have it reallocated completely.
December 31st.
Mr. Chairman, because I've never seen the
Reallocated.
contract at all, I'm not sure what we're amending it to. I understand what you're saying, to do it year by year, but because that's the only thing I know about the contract at this point. I don't know if we're not putting the cart before the horse on this one, on your amendment. I don't know.
No, it doesn't have a
I
second.
don't know what I
now,
don't
so-
know, so.
I mean, it doesn't have a second now, so I mean, if we can't get a second, then we're gonna go defer.
So you're looking for a performance.
Yes,
From what I
that's right.
understand. And
I mean,
some of these
right.
programs are geared towards, and I made some notes, like they mentioned vets, single parents. So are we gonna start measuring the metrics on, all right, what programs did the single parents go into? What program did high school students? I'm
we
just
can
trying
cut
to
and slice it.
understand.
I mean, in my mind, it's about job placement for local people into positions. How many got placed, how many were retained, and what the average salary is, right? I mean, we are strategically limiting growth. That means that housing prices are gonna go up, right? I mean, just gonna. And so if we want people here to be able to afford a house here, we're cutting off one avenue of it, which I agree with, because the infrastructure doesn't support it. So if we can, if we can do what we can, if we can take a little bit of money in order to attempt to increase the average salary of folks here, look, we don't know if it works. That's the problem. I mean, I think that is what citizens have said to me. We don't have any idea that it works, and that's very, very, very fair. So this is a show me the money kind of approach. Does it work or does it not? It's kind of a pilot. Mr. Brown?
I agree with what you've said, setting the metrics. I just think that we should look at the contract first,
That's fair.
have the deferral, and then we visit what
Fair
you've
enough.
said.
Well, I hadn't got a second yet, so I don't know that it's gonna, go ahead.
I'm not opposed to deferring it for a month, but what I do think we're running the risk of is the original approval was $1,560,000. And then that was negotiated down to 600 roughly. I'm concerned, we don't want to give the appearance of continuing to move the ball or move the goal line where they could never get to that. It's either, I think we either need to defer 30 days and talk about it or scuttle it completely, because to have them continuing to try to meet a goal or another goal or another goal, I don't want to continue to move it.
Well, we are paying $100,000 for analytics, so that's part of the
I
package.
disagree. I'm just saying that I think we need to, I'm not opposed to moving it 30 days at all.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a vote on this committee, but I have a vote on the commission, and I will not vote for this for a number of reasons. But I think we're in a treacherous area here of maybe even having a handout in the future for additional, beyond the 4 years, additional money. We could negotiate it down to zero. As far as I'm concerned, there's no negotiation. We say yes or no. So that's just my thoughts. I know how I will vote.
Fair enough. Any further discussion? So, I think, was there a second for the motion to change it? I don't think so. So I think that fails. Get a second, and we can move to motion to defer. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor to defer this to the next budget committee? Aye. Any opposed? All righty. Motion carries. Now on to item D here. So I actually think this should have been split, but yeah. So there's the 279,000, which that's not what we're considering here. The only consideration is for the 125,000, which we voted on last time,
Right.
which was payment in arrears.
Right. The second reading's for the 125.
That's correct. So that's what we have to vote on today. Is everybody tracking this? So I'd like to entertain a motion to approve on second reading the 125,145.
So moved.
Is it? We don't have a second.
I'll second.
You have a second, okay.
For discussion.
Go ahead.
This is what we approved back in December, the first, the second reading.
This is second reading, so so the election commission came out, this has kind of been an ongoing discussion, originally for about $280,000.
That's the first part of D right here. So
That's the first part of D.
That's what I'm asking about.
Yeah, that's what we said was we're not gonna do that. Give us the number, I asked Miss Ashley, for the number of what we owed in arrears for hours already worked. Because our discussion, and Mr. Hyde weighed in here, by law, we are required to do that. So that is the number that was given to us for the total number of hours worked up through, what was the end date? Was that through,
The end of the election.
Or was it through end of November?
It was the end of November.
End of November. So that's what we're voting on here. We passed last time. I think it was unanimous.
Picked up the election.
Any other need for clarity or questions?
Because we're responsible for
That's
it.
right.
Yeah,
I mean, these
there's
people
no way
worked
to get out of it.
like
Yeah,
it is what it is.
yeah, okay.
Now, there's gonna be a separate discussion on something different in a minute, but we're trying to keep these out for what we needed to do versus what we,
Right.
all right.
Got a motion and a second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimously. Moving on to new business. Mr. Brown, budget amendments?
It's all information.
Information only?
Just pass.
Any We don't, no action taken?
No action.
Alrighty, moving into appropriation. So the first one, item B1, this is this is $100,000, and this is a new employee. So I'd like to entertain a motion for discussion here.
So move.
Second.
Okay, so this is a $100,000 appropriation. This is state funds, I think.
It's the state or federal?
I think it's state.
Give me just says it's state.
Yeah, and the reason I made a motion for discussion as opposed to approval is that this is another one of these, it's taking state funding in order to spin up a full-time employee.
I mean, what,
Yeah, go ahead.
what is, I mean, is permanent state's gonna continue to fund this, or what's the, what is this for? I mean, how
I don't
long's it
know.
last?
I failed, this is on me, I failed to ask anybody from the drug court. Is anybody from drug court here?
I mean, it's kind of the same situation we got into, I guess, a month or two
Yeah.
ago, the same thing, like, well, we're approving this, however, there's no guarantee, I think it's
That's-
a 4-year contract at the last one, I'm not mistaken, that there's no guarantee that after that, and
Yeah.
with the understanding of like, hey, we passed this, but we're not guaranteeing you funding in the future for this, should the state can fail to fund this.
Yeah, and then we have, basically, we've generated a need that then the county would have to
It's a
pick up.
cycle, yeah.
As I recall, this was a one-year only deal, and then it would be assessed. Is that not the way am I
You're talking about
not?
the
That was the
one.
previous one. This is a separate.
Oh, this is a separate
This is
one.
separate and new, but it is
Okay.
similar to the one you're
That
talking
was like
about.
$79,000.
Yeah, that was 79,000, and that one had been continued for a while, so that was, it was on like
But
year
this is
3.
like new. We've
This
never
is
seen
new.
this
I think this
before.
is new. I haven't seen it. Mr. Long, do we have this employee?
I think this is a new employee.
This is net new.
It just says to cover new mental health participant services, including staff members.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, on page 7, the term of the contract is from January to June 30th. That's what's spelled out in the grant, or whatever it was.
We don't have anybody here from there. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. So, I don't know if we need a motion to, is there any further discussion here? Do we want to move to defer or to pass this?
I mean, it lists there, the state shall have no obligation
Yeah,
beyond June 30th.
that's right. Or do we want to, I mean, I'll entertain any motion on this. I don't want to be the one dictating it.
I make a motion to defer it to next month.
Okay. Motion on the table to defer.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just don't think we know enough about it.
Fair enough. All right. All in favor, of motion to defer? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We will defer this. The next one is $10,000. This is a $10,000 pass-through laptops.
Motion approved.
Just a quick question here. Is this going to have, is your motion going to include, if it's unanimous, to avoid the second reading?
It's a floating.
All righty, so that's affirmative. Does that carry to your second? Okay. Any discussion on this one? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We do not need the second reading on that one. Juvenile court, 1474
The.
with, does your motion,
Waiver of the second reading.
Second.
any discussion?
It's because the lease isn't gonna go to, we can occupy the new courthouse now. So we have, in the current budget, you have it extended through June 30 with escalator clauses. They agreed if we go up 3% this year, that they will give us a year lease, which will cover us to our estimated time in the new courthouse, and they won't take in all those escalator clauses next year. So we'll have to come up with 1,474 more this year, but it'll save us a lot more than that next year.
When's the estimated move-in date for the
I think
courthouse?
it's September, the completion.
Well, they're hoping to have it completed by October, but they'll have to do testing. It'll probably be Q1 of '24.
Yeah.
So this covers until roughly January of 2024.
Seems like
That's
money
a
well
And
spent.
you've
Pretty
gotta
good
move them
deal.
too.
Yeah.
and you gotta move them too. Well, this covers the difference this year. Next year you'll have the lease, but the lease won't have the escalator clause and everything.
Because it might be a month.
Well, next year, we're gonna have it for the whole year, won't even the whole year. But, you know, there's- if you read the contract after it ended, it continues and then has escalator clauses, and then they keep going up. And then there's another ones on top of that every quarter and then every month. So this gets a fixed, by agreeing to pay them $1,474 more this year, they're agreeing to do a year term versus all these escalators.
Mr.
So we
Harrison.
added up the best cheap.
Since we're talking about the courthouse, have we even ordered furniture?
Yes,
We have.
yes, a while back. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I figured there was gonna be some lead time, so that's why I was asking.
It was ordered, and I could go back and look, but it was quite a while back. It was, I believe it was before, and I can't swear to, I believe it was before September.
Yep. Motion, we have a motion second.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries.
And that was with the waiver.
With the vote waiver. That's correct. Okay, so this is coming back to the election commission. So this is 61,779 additional funding. And Mr. Long, I don't know if you want to have a discussion here or, well, actually, let's do it right. So I'd like to entertain a
I'll move for
motion
discussion.
for discussion.
Second.
All right, great. Mr. Long, I don't know if you want to start here, and I don't know if Ms. Ashley is in the, okay. So Mr. Long, you want to go first, and Ms. Ashley, I'd like for you to come up briefly. Go ahead.
Let's receive the request. I mean, I think just let her present what she's
All right,
asking for.
go ahead.
Okay, so we started back in October, and what we requested was that the amount that was cut from our budget from last year, from the previous commission, just be put back in to let us finish the year. Chairman Cho asked me to just get us, and Chairman Hyde, just to get us out of the negative. So that's what the 125, 145 was. Chairman Cho also asked me to look at the numbers. Again, what would it take us to get us through the end of this year with our part-time help? Now, we came in and talked to you guys the first time. We have lost four full-time staff members. Since I came and talked to you then, we've lost 2 more. So we've lost 6 full-time staff members in the last 12 months. So we're actually only requesting, the balance would have been 172, 682.50. We're only requesting the 61,779. So we reduced our initial request by $92,903. If you're asking why, we had built in that budget for convenient boat centers, which we were not able to implement because the census came in so late, we couldn't get redistricting done. We just simply could not implement them for 2022. The other thing is the loss of the staff. We needed extra part-time money to fill in those positions that we lost.
So let me, if I may, so this 61,000, almost 62, covers us through June.
Yes, sir, for June 30th.
Okay.
And it's just part-time. There's no machines. There's nothing to do with anything else other than just part-time staff.
Forgive me, and I'm happy to, if you're.
Or, excuse me.
No,
we
go
can
ahead.
do the pay-as-you-go that Mr. Hyde suggested to keep us in compliant with the state law. But that's the number it's going to be, so you all can take it up now, or take it up every month, or just go ahead and approve it down, be done with it through the end of the year.
I appreciate that clarification, because I didn't know exactly what the time period was on this, and I probably should have paid more attention on page 148, but I guess, and forgive me for being direct, I guess I just would want to know, and I'm not trying to dive too much in your business, like, what are the personnel, I don't know how else to ask this, other than what are the personnel doing in the time period now?
Okay, so in our off years, we do have to clean up the voter rolls. So we do address verifications and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
We send out anybody that we think has moved or hasn't voted in the last 2 general elections. We send them an address verification. We get about 30, so we send out usually about 40 to 50,000. We usually get about 30% of that mail back. So all that's processed going out, all that's processed coming back in. So that we do that in the
how many staff? How many part-time staff?
Well, because the DOL changes, and David can elaborate on this, a part-time person can't have more than 30 hours rolling across a year, or they're considered full-time. So we have to have about 6 part-time people that we keep rotating all the time so they don't hit that maximum.
So,
It's determined when we have to start paying health insurance.
so
Right, yes,
six,
and benefits.
so 6 times 30 hours a week, is that,
They don't all work. It's not, it's an average over the course of a year, so.
Okay.
Not all of them work every day, a couple of them.
but the average should be that, right?
About that.
6 times 30.
Yeah,
So equivalent of 4 FTEs, more or less.
right.
Okay.
But we still now have to, the other problem we're running into is because we lost our seasoned employees, these new people coming in are not trained. So we're gonna have the 2 seasoned employees, we were cross-trained in everything, but when we lost them, 6 of them, that was basically a turnover of our entire staff. So all those people are gonna have to be trained to do their initial jobs and then cross-trained to do the other jobs again. And that's at a slower pace.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Chairman, if I'm Alan Henley, Chairman of the Vice Chair, we're also processing new voters every day.
Right.
Each one takes, we calculated, takes 8 minutes. Doing 5 right now, averaging about 500 a month.
Okay.
And then because it's a presidential in 2024, we'll be doing the March PPP, Presidential Purpose Primary. You can start pulling petitions for that in September.
Got it. So, Mr. Long, I remember when we had discussions here, and they were big, and this was, blame me for it, I asked for a comparison of like counties. So if we were to add up the 125 plus the 61, I mean, we can kind of figure this out right now.
It'd be more than Rutherford County.
But at that amount, how close, what does that look like?
We actually, and those were the benchmarkings that we updated, and they're actually,
Yeah, can we pass those benchmarkings out since,
those are the ones requested.
what's that? Yeah,
If you can pass it on down to me a copy too.
Now, I will make the point also that the new people coming in will be at a lower salary than the full-time that we lost.
so,
And let me go through the benchmarking, what we have.
well, yeah, but I want to do the benchmarking but I want you to subtract out the difference between it's a difference of, what's 280 minus 180, so it's a $100,000 difference.
From the max.
Yeah, so she asked for the 280, and then if we do the 125 plus the 61, that's 185, so it's about $95,000 difference.
The 2023 you're seeing here,
Mm-hmm.
that is actually before any of these amendments. So if you add, you'd have to add the 125 and the 61 to that.
Oh, you'd have to add it.
Yeah, that's her original budget. Her original request was more than Rutherford County. That's why the budget committee kicked it out.
Yeah, no, I remember that, but I'm sorry, I totally am tracking.
That if you take all the surrounding counties, Montgomery, Williamson, Wilson, Sumner, including Rutherford County, this office was more expensive than Rutherford.
And I would disagree with that vehemently.
That's the budget online.
I
Well,
would-
we-
I would disagree vehemently. We did the salary surveys, and that is not an accurate statement. I'm sorry.
We're pulling the actual budgets off Rutherford County's online, and we've talked to Rutherford County.
And so have
If we
I.
take your budget, you can go to Rutherford County's website right now and look.
Rutherford County doesn't.
Let's do this. Let's instead of going back, here's what I'd like to do. We can go. Here's what I would suggest. It's not just what I'd like, but what I would suggest is that we can go month to month, and I would like to sit. I think the right way to do this would be to sit down with you and me and Mr. Long and figure out, come to a reasonable understanding here, because I'm.
Well, I have a reasonable understanding, with all due respect, and he's not gonna.
Well, I understand that. We've got two different.
He's the reason
Oh,
this happened.
yeah, ma'am, we've got two opinions, and the whole purpose of this committee is to have things out in the open for everybody to see. It's very clear that we have two differences of opinion, and I don't know that it would be good for just decorum to have this, the rest of this out. What I'd like to do is just have the three of us sit down and we can get into some weeds. Well, then I guess you need to be present as well, Mr. Sidley. So that's what I would like to suggest we do here. So anyway.
Is there a, you want?
We would have, I'd need to have an emotion to defer, and then then they'll handle the rest.
Chairman, if you defer, we're gonna be in the negative again.
You're gonna require us yet again to run a deficit budget, which we're not supposed to do.
Okay.
Just by state law.
I understand, and I'm willing to do this for a month because I've got some different, I mean, when I see numbers like this, I need to understand them. My position, the position of this committee is to do as much diligence as we can over taxpayer dollars. And I'm not saying that y'all are wrong here. I see two different opinions, and I want to hash it out, and I want to hash it out in a way that is professional.
With all due respect, Mr. Long is not in a position to tell me how to staff my department, period.
I'm not talking about staffing.
You are.
But, guys, the motion's on the table to, do we have a motion to defer?
Second.
All right. Mr. Klein?
If this is such an urgent thing, we can do an emergency meeting.
Well, we can go month to month. I understand it. You know, look,
Okay.
there's no scenario in which we are not going to pay people for the work they did.
Right.
Right? That's just not going to happen.
Right.
But
But we need to understand the numbers, and so
That's
I
right.
agree with the deferment.
Yeah. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So point of clarification, you want us to run in a deficit the next month?
For 1 month.
Okay,
And 1 month.
okay, thank you.
We're gonna, I'm hoping that what we can do is sit down in a room and we can come to something reasonable. Okay, moving on.
B5.
So we're on B5 here, the Tribal Consistency Fund. Mr. Isbell, well, actually, I'll have a motion just for discussion here.
I second it.
All righty, Mr. Isbell, I think you know more about this than most here.
This is just a grant that we've received. It's kind of broad in its application. It's a $100,000 grant. We get two allotments, $50,000. One we just received, the other one will come around the first of the year. I would like to use it for this deferred maintenance issues that we have. If it's will of the community.
Use it for what? What was it?
Deferred maintenance issues. That list that we presented several times,
From 2016?
2016 on.
Yeah. So, who did the grant come from?
Is it federal?
Federal government.
Well, there's a motion for discussion.
So tribal consistency fund, I mean, I think Native American, I hear tribal consistency fund, is that what this is about, or is this for?
I have no idea.
I
Mr.
don't
Long?
think it has anything,
Well, I would say
you know,
tribal.
tribal's a broad term, it really doesn't have anything to do with Native American. It's just, it's a local assistant fund, and they're really broad in what you can use it for.
It says, what it says is many eligible revenue sharing counties and eligible tribal governments. Every source.
So that's just kind of a general.
It looks like a
caption, just
general-
as a Because if you're a tribal government, this applies to you as well.
To you as well, that's what it looks
Okay,
like.
I'm just trying to clear, I just
Yeah.
never seen this.
No, and this is the first for me too.
Okay.
It
Oh,
says,
is it?
there are two, it says
But it's
eligible,
not.
it says has eligible applicants here. Paragraph 1 is an eligible revenue sharing county is a county, parish, or borough that is independent of any other unit of local government. I think we qualify. And then they also have the tribal government as well, so I feel like that's pretty clear.
May I-
Yes, sir.
Who secured this?
It went through our grant department, Kim Hart, or Kim Norfleet.
Hard to keep up with her.
What's that?
It's hard to keep up with her.
Yeah.
Do you know when this grant application was made?
I don't, I can go back and find out.
We've already received the first payment.
Can I?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I brought this to David's attention back in October, and he sent it to Ms. Northwood. If you want, I can show you the website, and it shows Sumner County, 50,000. So I don't know where it went and where it's at now, but that's where it started,
We received it.
and this is the information.
Yeah, I forwarded it on. I forwarded it on as you requested.
Yeah. If you'd like to see the website. I just read it, it said Sumner County $50,000. I said, hey, David, I want that money.
And
So I mean,
it can be used for
it's,
pretty much
we're
anything.
using, I mean, let me just roll this back real quick. It's a grant that we appear to be able, federal grant that we appear to be able to qualify for. I mean, it's one-time funds for one-time things. We're not putting it toward any salary or anything like that. Is there any, I guess the only question that, are there any strings attached to this that like
No.
sign us up for anything that we have to,
We just got to report on what we're spending on.
we just have to report on what we're spending on? Okay.
We've
I
got
mean, I'm
tons of
comfortable with
maintenance.
that.
$50,000.
I mean, we got maintenance.
Up the yin yang.
That's a good question. Who will decide what projects this will go to?
Well, I think there's already a list that's been presented, Mr. Knight. It's
Has it
that,
been prioritized?
it,
Well,
The
what
list I
I'll be
saw was
happy
better.
I'll be happy to share next month what we can use it for, the options.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be
I
happy to
think
do
General
that.
Ops would like to buy
Sure.
into that because the sheet of the list I saw was not necessarily prioritized, and it was about 3 pages, I think.
Yeah, it was an all-encompassing list, so yeah, we're.
That had been initiated in 2016, so there's lots.
And some of it monies have already been allocated for. We just haven't made the decision out of general ops to actually do the project.
Right.
so we can approve this and just, you all would oversee it, right?
Sure, sure.
I think. Do we need to send it back? I mean, if we can approve it and then, as you
Motion
provide a
to
report.
approve.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Since it's flow through, you're going to wait the second reading.
Wait,
Because
That's your call.
wait.
All right, so it's unanimous for a waive of second reading. Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay. Transfer, if we're down to C1, so this is for AEDs, I believe, correct? Mr. Long?
On the highways, the AED to the highway.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? All righty.
Will we group and approve 1, 2, 3?
Second.
Well, we're on the other interbudgetary, C2.
sorry. Item
Yeah,
2.
166, 167. Mr. Long, you do this one.
In 166, there's nothing unusual in those.
Yeah.
Those are just interbudgetary.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Group and approve D1 through 3. Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Move
I need-
adjourned.
You guys recording?
All righty.
You guys recording your game?
Happy New Year.
No, I'm not. I'm good. I'm leaving.
Last.